Bam.
Hey, this is Bryan Fuller, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
This is awesome. I love having Bryan on my show. I've known Bryan for a long time. Bryan, it's about to
Long
be
time.
30 years.
Oh yeah, no, it's at least 30. Yeah.
You
Um,
are a rowing machine. You've rowed across the Atlantic Ocean at the time, and maybe still true, the fastest American ever to row across the Atlantic Ocean. Is that still true, do you think, or has it been broken?
I don't think. I think there's another team that they had this last year or the year before. They had crazy great weather, and
Mm.
everybody finished like impossible times. So there was 3 or 4 teams that are faster than us now, and I think there was an American on board there. So I'm no longer the fastest American, but
Mm.
that's okay. I got something else I'm trying though.
Yeah, and it's not like a record anybody keeps track of, right? Like,
No,
it's great
no,
that
no,
you
no.
can say it, but
The fastest Reddit.
I'm told that you're going to row across the ocean again. And I remember you saying, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do this again. And
It
so,
doesn't sound like me at all. It doesn't sound like me at all. So, uh,
why are you doing this again, man?
look, rowing across the ocean is the Everest for rowers. You know, uh, my whole life is all about rowing. I have a rowing studio. I teach people how to row crew. I train people from all around the world. I have a business that challenges people to row long distances. And this is kind of like this is the pinnacle of what we do in rowing. And the challenge of it all, it just appeals to me in a way that it's hard for me to put words into. And I'm pretty jazzed about it. And I know at the time when I finished the last, I was a little sour on it, but I'm super excited about that. I can't wait. Honestly, 13 months can't come fast enough.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I am because I'm your friend and I love you. I'm also a little bit concerned. Look, I know you're strong as an ox and super healthy, but you've also had some health stuff. So, how smart is it to put your body through this? And we're not the youngest people, but we're not the oldest. So, talk about your health for a second.
So what Pete's referring to is 2.5 years ago, I had a stroke. Um, and my doctors are unsure of why it actually happened. I did have slightly high blood pressure, but there's a possibility it's just from like working out excessively. I own a gym and I teach anywhere from 12 to 20 classes a week, and I like to go for it every single class. And I think I was pushing myself too much. I'm 54 now, but I feel like $1,000,000. Feel great. I have no lingering effects. Look, I know if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. I can't say I'm going to do this. I'm going to be healthier in 10 years and do this. Like I said, I feel great, and my doctor gave me the green light, and so I think I'm good to go.
Good, 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 good. And I'm truly, I have no doubt that you'll do this because that's the kind of guy you are. But I do care about you, and I know you do work yourself hard. You and I, and when we were in our army units, we were the guys that could pick things up and carry them. So it seemed like we picked up things and carried them every day because, we were draft animals for the most part. So I
Those are
do worry about you, man.
I'm on draft animals.
Yeah. Uh, so, okay, so we talked about why you would do this. I guess what are you doing specifically?
So June 1st next year, I believe is a Saturday, we are going to push off from community rowing, which is on the Charles River here in Boston. It's the last boathouse on the Charles River. We have a big send-off. We're going to push off from there, row down the Charles, get into Boston Harbor, go up by the Grand Banks, shoot straight across until we get to England, the coast of England, come up the Thames, and we're going to land at Big Ben. Like we're going to do it from Boston, London.
Hold on. You're going to go from a river in Boston to London to a river in London.
Mm-hmm.
Don't normally you guys cheat by starting in the Azores and just kind of gently float across over to Barbados? I'm being a little bit silly with that, but you're not going the traditional route.
No, this is not a traditional route. Most of the row across the Atlantic Ocean starts somewhere in Spain or Morocco, and they go to the Caribbean because there's a natural current that goes in that direction. You kind of push offshore. In 90 days, you'll be in the Caribbean, floating across. and the water is very favorable. It's really warm. I mean, beautiful 85-degree temperature in the water. It's lovely. This is a much bigger challenge. The water temperature will probably be somewhere between 40 and 60, probably closer to 40. The currents in the North Atlantic are not nearly as favorable. They kind of swirl around quite a bit. The distance is a little longer. It's about 3,100, maybe 3,200 miles in the South Atlantic. And the North Atlantic, it's about 3,500 miles. So we're going to have to wear special gear. We're going to have to kind of change the way we do our shifts. There's a lot of technical problems that we have to overcome in order to do the North Atlantic. About probably 700, maybe 1,000 people have rowed the South Atlantic, and I think the North Atlantic is somewhere under 20. It's just a much more difficult technical row.
So, is there someone that you can use as an advisor? I mean, it's one thing to say, we've got more challenges, but it's a whole other one to have the experience to say, like, hey, is hypothermia has got to be a significant risk for you guys.
It's a huge risk. So, like, you fall out of the boat in the South Atlantic, the biggest risk is that they can't find you. It's not hypothermia. You've got a long, long time before hypothermia steps in the South Atlantic. In the North Atlantic, we actually wear dry suits for probably, unless the weather's super duper favorable, like it's just pancake flat, because you don't want to risk falling in. Because if you risk falling in, you probably only have 10 minutes, a half hour before hypothermia starts setting in, and that's the real problem. We have lots of safety features to make sure we don't fall out of the boat, but that's the risk. You fall out of the boat, you get separated, and then you're exactly right. It's not shark attacks. It's hypothermia that will then kill you long before a shark ever gets to you.
And even within the boat, you get, if you were rowing in a dry suit, you're going to be soaking wet when you take that thing off, and then you got to lay down inside. So is the boat heated?
No.
Oh, so super easy.
Oh, sorry about that. I just laughed at myself here for a second. No, it's absolutely not heated. We'll probably have some blankets. It shouldn't be that bad. Honestly, we'll just have some clothing inside the cabin. We'll probably be fine. You're pretty warmed up after rowing for 2 hours, and then you go into the cabin. And I don't foresee it being, because the cabin's really small and it's airtight. So just by the very nature of me being hot and then walking in there,
okay,
and then and the cabin's not on the water directly. You have like the lower part of the boat, the keel is in the water, but the cabin.
So it's going to be too hot in there. It's going to be
No,
stuffy.
I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. I think it'll be pretty comfortable. We will bring blankets, so, but I suspect it'll be pretty comfortable. It was actually a huge problem. That was the biggest problem in the South Atlantic was it was so hot. The cabin would be 120 degrees. We'd have to keep the door open. Even then, it would be like you're just boiling in that thing.
Right.
So yeah, I foresee that's not going to be our biggest issue. But you're right.
Okay.
Staying warm is the problem.
And so hypothermia is the biggest issue, or is there something bigger than that?
No, hypothermia is definitely the biggest issue.
Right.
And then probably weather.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because you have like your most likely and then most deadly, and so hypothermia is the thing that's like going to be the hardest to recover from, because you guys are man-powered. There's no support, I'm imagining. So if someone goes in, it's all hands to get that person out, but that doesn't mean you can just row over it. Like, the ocean is trying to kill you at all times, and so you can't reliably say, "Oh, we'll just row over and pick you up."
It's only personal, I think. I think I'm intentionally maybe one of the guys who doesn't like, but I think overall we've got a pretty good relationship. But yeah, weather's a problem. You get some pretty big waves in the North Atlantic.
Yeah.
And like I said, the currents don't go just from west to east, like they go from east to west in the South Atlantic. they're a little bit swirling, so we have to kind of re-navigate. So it's kind of a wavy pattern, trying to stay with the currents rather than try to fight against them, because they kind of swirl a little bit in the North Atlantic. So it's definitely a problem. That's going to be the issue as far as like getting there. And then like if we have any storms or anything like that, that could be a problem. But we picked a time of the year that's pretty good about not too many storms. South Atlantic, like storms are actually, I don't want to say welcomed, but like a little bit of weather is kind of nice. North Atlantic, I would prefer pretty flat. So we'll see.
I recently did a show with a historian who talked about this guy named Lope Martin. I might have mentioned him to you. And he is the first guy to, on purpose, that we know of ever, and in times of like from the age of discovery to now, he was the first person to pilot a ship from east to west across the Pacific. So he went from the Philippines all the way to ultimately Mexico. And look, this is 500 years ago. And so they damn near died several different times trying to do this. You have the advantage of a lot of modern technology and everything. But what folks don't get is east to west that is not easy to do. There's a lot of problems. Like you said, the weather, those waves. You said to me before that, your boats are super buoyant though, like you're bobbing like a cork. So if the seas do get big and you can't row away from a storm, and I guess there's a question there, can you row away from a storm? But you guys, you just batten down the hatches and maybe put one guy up there who just kind of throw a storm anchor out? Or how do you guys survive these things?
So the real issue with the storm, the boat, like waves that go up and down like this, no problem.
Right.
When the waves roll and you get kind of white caps, that's the problem. Because then what can happen, the boat can roll over and can pitch pole. Pitch pole is a real danger, is where the back end of the boat comes over the front end of the boat, and then it lands on the top of the boat. That can be really dangerous, because, essentially everything falls out of the boat into the water before then the boat lands on it. The real problem with that is if we don't have the doors shut and the boat's not airtight, because the boat will right itself. But like if we leave the hatches open, or it's hot that day, or we get caught unexpected, or they just flew open, the boat will fill with water. It won't sink. It will just kind of settle into the water. So there's no danger of it sinking to the bottom. The boat is buoyant on its own. But that being said, that would be the end of the race. There's lots of dangers like that. But rolling over is manageable. Pitch poling is really tough to recover from.
And he said about 20 people have done this. So what's the big thing? Like, why are we doing this? Look, I know we're talking about the exciting stuff, but ultimately the vast majority of the time you're just going to be rowing for, I don't know, 2 hours at a stretch or something. And it's going to be pretty, monotony is going to be the biggest problem for you guys, quite honestly.
100%. And I hope it's the biggest problem. I hope monotony is our biggest problem. You overcome it with music. Right. You download podcasts, books on radio, like books on tape and stuff. At a time, you try to plan out your kind of aloneness ahead of time. Kind of get your mind around it. It's a big challenge because there's not really a whole lot of conversation going on in the boat because it's actually pretty loud, and you're not facing each other. You're facing, front to back, and so I can hear the person behind me, but they can't hear me unless I'm screaming at them. So it's not really good conversation going on. In between shifts, there'll be a little bit of talking, but that's not that much. That's one of the major challenges. Can you just be in your own head for 40, 50, 60 days? And not everybody can do that. But that's also honestly one of the joys of this. That's what I'm super excited about. You have, imagine how chaotic your life is with your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, your your car, your work,
Yeah.
the bills, all this chaos is going on in your life, and like you got to be somewhere and do something. But now, for almost 2 months, I just have one thing to do, and I just do that, and like in between, I just kind of keep myself clean and sleep and eat some food, and like all I got to do is just row, and there's something really liberating about that. That all that everything else is just silence. So it's pretty great.
It's pretty great. So I know a bunch of, and I've had them on the show, a bunch of solo sailors. One guy is a guy named Randall Reeves. I don't know if you've
Yep.
heard of this guy at all or not, but and also another guy named Jerome Rand. And I've had other guys, but those are the first two guys I want to talk about. Both these guys have done significant solo sails. Randall did this. He left San Francisco and he went south all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. So the length of the Americas, and then went around Antarctica and then sailed up the east coast of the Americas and then over the top of Canada and then back down to San Francisco.
Wow.
And
that's pretty amazing. That's as amazing as it gets.
It is about as amazing as it gets. You're right about that. And when we were talking about this, there's all kinds of questions like I've been asking you, because this stuff is fascinating. And both he and Jerome talk about Jerome got beset by a calm out in the doldrums in the Indian Ocean. And he also lost his water pump. And so he's doing all his tricks to produce enough water. But at some point you have to have water. Like water is a real problem. And there's plenty of water when it's raining and you can just harvest what comes off the sails, but he wasn't in a position to do that. And he was close enough to the shore that he probably could go get provisioned. But that's not the challenge. And so you have these problems. And I asked both of these guys, were there times on your sails where you thought, I may not survive this night? Because again, a sailing boat is way more complicated than a rowing boat in terms of rigging and everything else. And one of the things that Randall said is like, there were times where, and I know you'll get this, a lot of military guys will get this, like where I had to go do something on the front of the boat. I am supposed to tie off and then, go and clip and go and clip and go and make my way to the front, where the problem is I am so exhausted. The problem is so such a thing that needs my attention that I often had to make the decision to say, I'm just going to the front. I'm just going to fix it. And in this case, safety is not the first priority. Getting this thing done and getting back into the cabin and getting back to sleep or whatever it is was it. And so he had some precautions. Like his precautions were like, I'm going to drag these two lines out of the back of the boat at all times, so I have a chance to maybe grab something. But if you're exhausted, you're not going to grab those things. But these guys were able to deal with all that, and they said the benefit, the solo thing, being on your own, the isolation, the sunrises, the things that you can't see anywhere else, the albatross flying with you, they can't trade it. They're driven to do it more. And it seems like you might be of the same kind, where like this is an amazing thing and you want the experiences that come in spite of the challenges and the dangers, and et cetera.
I don't disagree with that. I think it's spot on. It's like there in the beginning there's like a 2 or 3 day period where you're like really trying to change your mindset, and it took me probably about 7 or 8 days when I did the last row, and then you kind of fall into it, and then you're like, you're okay.
Yeah,
you're okay. But like the pressures in the beginning are like a lot, and then when you get done, you're like, boy, that was so quiet in my head. It was just great. And I'm not saying I want to do that forever, but like it's just a neat feeling, where like you have something to do. My job is to row, in the case of your sail, and like that's it. There's nothing else going on, and that's a really great feeling,
Yeah. I can imagine. I actually, I crave that. I want to have that experience.
Right? The ultimate.
Yeah, I can try. My body is so beat up. I'm trying desperately to get my body healthy enough to just work out every day, and that is proving to be hard. But this is not about me. This is about you. Ultimately, what I want to ask you is, What's the purpose here? I mean, obviously you want the isolation, you want the challenge, you want the record. We'll talk about the
Oh,
record in a second, but why are we
no,
doing this? I know you're a charitable heart.
so the purpose is we're trying to raise money for a specific charity. Um, when I first learned how to row, there was an organization called Community Rowing there in Brighton. They offered free rowing for veterans. You could learn how to do crew, even row the head of the Charles. And I I found out about it randomly, and I called them up and they're like, "Yeah, come on down." I went down, and for me, it was a life changing event. Um, Much like most people when they leave the military, it's not a smooth transition to civilian life. Some people it's smooth, but most people really struggle with it. And I struggled with it just like I think a lot of people have. And I didn't realize that I was struggling with it, and I didn't acknowledge it. And so for about 10 years after I left the military, I was sort of a little bit ashamed of my service in the military. I was a little bit ashamed to be a veteran. I didn't have a terribly positive experience. And when I went to do this veteran row, I was with all these other guys from Iraq, Afghanistan, some people from Vietnam, and we got together in a boat, and there was like a sense of like camaraderie that I hadn't felt since the military, and all of a sudden it all became okay. Um, one of the best ways to help people with PTSD is to normalize stuff, like normalize activities, fishing, bike riding together, play football, in our case, the crew. And like you do this as a group, and you have this common bond of people that have shared experiences. And it really changes your mindset. And from then on, I was so proud to be a veteran. I'm so proud of my service. This particular charity at Community Rowing, this veteran rowing program, really changed my life. And a couple of years after I had done my row the first time, raised money for them, and I did the board of directors for that particular organization, I quit my job and I opened up a rowing studio. And I wanted to share that love of rowing with other people. So the long story short is my purpose for doing this row is I'd like to raise awareness about this just amazing program they have. It's a free run for veterans, and raise money for them. Because it's a nonprofit. I mean, the whole organization is a nonprofit, but this particular program they don't take any fees for. You're a veteran, everything's covered. You just show up, and they take care of everything. It's just an amazing program.
Yeah, I mean, you and I mean, I remember us during that time, and I went on and did more service in a variety of military settings. And, you come back and at some point you do have to deal with it. And, the Army missed an opportunity with us to really put us to work. But the Army also did what it does with people. It put us to work in the way that it needed us. And, and it's frustrating to like, I could have done more. I should have done more. And you need someone like me to you or you to me to go, hey, man, you did what was asked of you. That's a lot. And you
Yeah.
did it and you didn't have to do it. And so it's hard to believe that. I go through these, I call them exorcisms, where I'll have a friend who will say, hey, I've done some awful things in war. Let's sit down and can we talk? And you talk to this person and they've just got to get all this stuff off their conscience, whatever it is, whether it's valid or not. And then you just go through this process with them and hopefully, at least temporarily, try to lift that burden. And it is things like equine therapy or being part of a community, doing things that are hard. Bryan, when I used to do my little garbage can racing, it was because it was hard to do. Sure, the racing part was fun and thrilling, but it was the, hey, the engine just blew up. We have 12 more hours to race. Can we go find an engine and can we get it into this car and get the car back on the track? We know we're not going to win, but we're not going to quit. And there was a lot of value in that. When we do our charity ride with Save the Brave, it's not easy. It's just like being deployed. You're working 16+ hour days. You have to have a great attitude the entire time. It's going to be hard. It's going to be dangerous, but we dig in. We did this in 2020, right? Drove right across all the southern states, from California all the way across to South Carolina. And we knew the danger. We mitigated the risk and we went out and did it. And there's huge value in that. And people swarmed out to support us. It was a brilliant thing, and it continues to be a brilliant thing. So I get that whole vibe, and thank you for doing it. I mean, I know this is what you do, and it's on theme for you, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve thanks for it. So I appreciate you doing that. Are you going for the record? I know you, and there's probably a yes, or you've probably built a sweetheart team here going for it. And then what is the record?
So the current record, as far as I can tell, there's only one other team that's ever left from North America and gone to England. They went from New York to London, or not to London. They just went to New York to England, and I don't think they definitely didn't go to London. And that took them about 60 days. I think we can do it in 45. We have quite a team assembled. We have an Olympian. We have myself that does rowing for a living. The other two guys are superstar athletes. Most people that do rows across the Atlantic, or these like kind of long rows, are not necessarily rowers. They're just adventurers. It's like the people that climb Mount Everest are not necessarily mountain climbers. They are people that can pay the $50,000 to climb Mount Everest. So in this case, we are actually a team of really good rowers. So I think we can maintain a pretty good pace. That's the hope. And so my record would be the fastest person to circle the Atlantic to do, because everybody that's done the North Atlantic is pretty much done the South Atlantic. So I'm racing against 20 people. We have a really good time in the South Atlantic. So there's a really good chance that I'll be the fastest person to circle the Atlantic. That'd be kind of cool, I think. So I'm digging that, everything in life is about having something, like something you can just hold on to and be like, I did that. That was pretty cool, and this would be my one little thing.
Yeah. I know the last one wasn't the last one, because you're going to do this one. And this isn't the first time you've tried to get one of these things set up. So we talk about that in a second. But do you think this will be the last time you do this thing?
I can't imagine doing something like this again. No, I
Okay.
just can't. I mean, the only thing left would be to do the Pacific, and I don't know. I'm an Atlantic guy, Boston. I'm over here in the East Coast, and there's nothing left to do on the East Coast. I'll do more ocean rowing for sure. Any chance I get the opportunity to, but it might be something significantly shorter.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm looking forward to it, though. I really can't wait. I'll push off tomorrow and let's go.
Yeah. And how do you, I guess let's ask these questions. How do you prepare? What do you eat? And then obviously the standard thing, how do you get clean and how do you poop?
I'll start with the last one first. We have a bucket, and that's just getting over yourself, and then use the bucket, throw it overboard, clean the bucket afterwards, and then put it back. What do we eat? We primarily eat mountaineering food. It's like freeze-dried food. It's actually, it sounds terrible, but it's not that bad, actually. You have what's called a little jet boil, which mountaineers use. So it's like a gas can with a little heater element on top, and you heat a thing of water on your jet boil, and then you pour it in the packs, and everybody gets hot food, which will be super nice in the North Atlantic. In the South Atlantic, we can eat it cold. Nobody cared. What's the other things here? Water. All our water is, we have a desalinator on board. There's an automated desalinator, and then we also have a hand one too, just in case. But the hand ones, it's a lot of work. You got to really pump that thing to get a gallon of water out of it.
How do you get clean? Because you're covered in salt the entire time, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not 100% sure about that. In the South, absolutely covered in salt. You want to just pour water over yourself, just kind of get that salt. You don't realize, like, the waves are constantly spraying against you, so you're constantly getting covered in salt, and it'll dry on you and dry on you and dry on you. And you get like salt sores and all kinds of problems. In the South Atlantic, we'll probably be wearing a dry suit for most of the time. We may jump in the water, but we're basically getting the salt off the dry suit. So we're on the inside of the dry suit. So I don't think it'll be too bad. We'll wash our face. It shouldn't be nearly as much as salty. If we can handle it in the South, we can definitely handle it in the North. But yeah, once a day, I'll just take a bar of soap, pour water over my head, and that's pretty much it.
Where does that water
occasionally,
go? I mean, that's gray water, right? So you want to get that away from the humans. Does it
so
just
the
get?
way the boat is built, the actual top of the boat where we sit, it's kind of
Mhm.
pitched out just a little bit like this. So kind of the
Mm,
middle of the boat is the highest part of the boat, and then it comes out at the edges, and there's holes on the deck. So if it rains, it just goes out the sides. If you wash yourself, it just goes out the side. The gray water just goes out the side. And quite frankly, you need to wash the boat every once in a while anyway. So, um, and you get sweaty, but you really don't get all that dirty because there's no
mhm.
dirt on the boat. There's no dust in the air. There's no you're not around anything that's dirty or oily or greasy. It's just
Yeah.
your sweat that dries and salt. So it's not as if you really get all that messed up. If that makes sense.
And you guys are crushing what, like 10,000 calories a day or something like that?
Oh, I would think at least 10,000 calories a day. Yeah, we're rowing 12 hours a day. So the way we're going to work out our shifts is going to be 2 hours on, 2 hours off throughout the day, and then at the night we'll do a 5 hour on, 5 hour off. So 5 hours of rowing, that's got to be 2,500, 3,000 calories right there. And then the other shifts rest of the day. Yeah, we'll probably do about 10,000 calories a day. I would think that's about right. We also probably won't eat 10,000 calories a day, so we'll probably have significant weight loss. But all of us are big guys, so the boat's going to go a little faster at the end.
Like a F1 car.
Yeah, the
That's
less
great.
gas in the car, the faster it goes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, this stuff costs money, right? You're doing all the coordination, you're taking all the time, but I
Yeah.
know folks are going to want to support you because getting you in the water allows you to also start to raise money. So, how do people right now, as you're leading up, what's the best way they can support you? What's your ask? Like, what do you want per person?
So we're looking to raise $100,000. Well, I'm looking to raise $100,000 personally. Half of everything I raise goes to the program, so $50,000. So this thing probably costs about $50,000 to do. I'm personally paying for the boat to be shipped out to Massachusetts to be stored. When we row across, I pay for all the food. When we bring it back, I have to ship the boat back. That's on me, and then I have to send the boat back to its owner because we're renting the boat.
Okay.
The suits we wear, we're going to do a practice row. So there's quite a bit of air flights back. It's quite a bit of stuff. The $50,000, I'm hoping that's the right number. I don't want to spend too much on my too much. I mean, I'm expecting to spend 10,000 something out of my pocket, but ideally we'll raise enough that we can all do this successfully and not broke doing
Yeah.
it. Plus, I have a business here that's going to be kind of on stasis a little bit. I have some employees that are still open and teach classes and stuff, but it won't be at full capacity. But what we'll be doing, though, is I own a small company called Border Rowers. And Border Rowers is a challenge-based rowing company. And so we're going to actually give people the opportunity to row against me across the Atlantic. So it's about 3,500 miles. And so suppose it takes us 50 days. There's going to be teams that are going to be able to race us to try to beat us to London. And a lot of those people will be able to use my studio. So a lot of people local in Brookline here in Boston will be able to use my studio to help compete against us rowing across. And we'll be able to tell people, you'll be able to follow us online. There'll be a little dot. And yeah, it should be pretty cool, actually. I think it'll be a lot of fun for people just to see if they can keep up with us. Because it's going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be quite a challenge. Because you're going to have to row essentially as a team 80 miles a day. That's a lot. So a team of 10 miles each, which is about 20,000 meters, something like that, give or take. I'm not 100%, I don't math in my head, but 16, 17, something like that around. That's a lot of meters you got to row a day.
A lot of meters.
So it's probably well over an hour a day you have to row.
Yeah.
With a team of 10 just to keep up with us. If you miss a day, we're not missing a day. We're still out there rowing, so it's one of those things you really got to keep on. But we have some probably Ideally, for the people that sign up for that, they will also partially go to the charity, partially go to the row. We're gonna have some pretty fun prizes for them as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what if you want to jump in and do a corporate sponsor and really step up and
That
back
would
the
be
boat?
amazing. So we
Okay.
have a website. You can contact me through Power Rowing. That's the name of my rowing company. But we have a website called LondonCallingRow.com.
LondonCallingRow.com. Okay. Let me put these links in here.
Yeah. And you'll see a picture of a narwhal with a British flag on its nose. We're having a little fun with that. Or we're a little bit it's kind of punk. I don't know. I feel like the Clash can influence us a little bit. And yeah, if you want to go on that, you'll see a description of all of our charities, ways to contact us. You'll see the picture of the boat, and we're adding stuff all the time. So anybody that jumps on as like a contributor, as a sponsor, is going to be headlined on our website. They'll get a lot of attention because we're not doing this for about 13 months. We leave June 1st of 2024, and our hope is to really, showcase the charity, but also showcase our sponsors for their support of our charities. And here's the real kicker: whoever does actually join in this, there's a really good chance we are going to make a movie out of this. We have a Netflix director, Jason, who's done a couple of documentaries for Netflix, who wants to do a documentary on our row. So we're starting the process of doing that right now. We're going to have we're getting a couple of drones for when we're out in the water, to fly them around, to kind of see what it's like. We'll have some cameras on the boat. We'll get like 100 hours of footage. We're going to condense it down to 1 hour, and so it should be pretty interesting. So once again, all those sponsors will get a little something in the by having their name on the boat, but also get a little buzz in the movie too. So it's a pretty good sponsorship deal if you're looking to like support a great charity, or all these charities are really great, but also is a way to get some marketing back to your companies for doing some fun, wonderful work.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I know we've covered a lot of things, and it's fascinating. You've got my support when we're doing the show. I'll kick in some money as well. I'd like to be one of the first donors. I don't have a lot to give, but my percentage of giving to income is going to be high.
Really high.
Yeah, really high. What else do you want to say? Like everybody's heard this incredible story, this incredible feat that you're going to take on. There's no doubt in my mind you're going to do this. What do you want to say?
What I want to tell people is like, so many of us live our lives day to day, like day in and day out, like go to work, go home, go to work, go home, get a weekend. Like this kind of thing is like, this is what it's all about, though. This is the thing you talk about forever, for the rest of your life, and you're like if you ever have the opportunity to do something that's like maybe a little bit scary to you, but like it's just something you'd be really proud of and something that maybe nobody else has ever done. Take that opportunity. Like, the greatest day of my life was the day I landed in Barbados last time I did this, and I was. It's like your wedding, the birth of your child, graduating college, all squeezed into one, and you can't talk, you can't put into words like how that makes you feel, and like everybody should have that feeling. Everybody should have that opportunity to feel that, and I hope me doing this row inspires somebody else to do something similar, or to beat me. It would be awesome if someone beat me. I love that. I love if we set the record and then someone came along and in a couple of years, and then and beat us. But I think that would be amazing. I hope this inspires people to do something that they could really feel like they've accomplished.
Yeah. So powerrowing.com, borderrowers.com, and put that up here right now, and londoncallingrow.com. These are all of the areas you can go. And really, if you go to Power Rowing and just mash the button over there, you're going to find Bryan and everything on there. But I encourage you guys to do.
What's up?
I was just saying, like, this is my call to action. Is I'm encouraging all of you guys to do is to get behind this effort. And look, it's a bunch of us contribute a small amount of money. We'll cover that $50K easy. and the corporations can get in line behind and just turn this and double the money and make it a real big, not only fundraise, but support the row.
That'd be amazing. And Pete, I really appreciate you as a friend, and I really appreciate you doing this for me.
All right, stand by. Let me wrap this up.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you.